Hello, folks. This is Dr. Paul with a unit summary for Unit 4. And we've been talking an awful lot in this course so far about the use of a great job of getting down I want to talk a little bit about the use of a genogram. Appreciated that several of you had questions about how many generations do you go back, cousins, and my dad is one of 12 and my mother is one of 14. It's important that there's no right or wrong genogram. Of everything that you could possibly. For our purposes here, you want to get down the basics. You want to have an idea of the basics. Some of those basic things are good to know. Certainly, if you talk a little bit about assumption perspective and critical of using tools like is, and I hope that this critique certainly don't want to discourage people from using genograms. They seem to fit with your ideas about therapy. I also want you to think granted certain assumptions. Therapists, what we do in therapy, um, technology, what changes, what it even some really fundamental things like. So let me first start out by saying that I think when you're beginning or fear around, I'm not going to have enough thought of having a tool like a genogram where you could spend data. It's a useful crutch when you're starting out and you have that. Take it from someone who does 4 hours. So I can remember starting out and on intern. Let's shift gears a little bit. A genogram is an assessment tool, but keep in mind that every statement through that process, we are intervening. And I think only from the perspective that they are gathering information and assessing, even as you gather information, program really is linked to the medical, still a tool that the expert therapist, which is tools of assessment, diagnosis, call it what you will, that help them to figure out what the problem is, and work to fixing that problem, depending on what the technology is regarding. Um, so, from the perspective that it's an assessment tool, very much links it to medical model where therapy that helps them to diagnose and figure out. People use genograms in a variety of ways. The most common way that I've seen is they talk about patterns in through generations. They talk about commonalities or themes. And really, what we're doing as we sit with a family and talk about those themes and patterns is we're either educating them or hoping to provide them with some kind of insight. Now, those of you who are aware of family therapy's history, we were born out of reacting to the idea that therapy is about gaining insight. A field that promotes the use of a tool that most or many therapists use to help promote insight for clients. And so I think it's a question for you to chew on yourself is what is change? And is it teaching people? I think some therapists embrace the idea that if you teach people communication skills, if you teach them coping strategies, if you teach them self esteem, that there are things you can teach therapy is. There are some people that say if you give them insights, awareness around their own personality and their patterns in their family, that that leads to change. Neither of those are fundamental family therapy ideas. Program does promote, I like to call that the diagnose or discover, diagnose, fix formula, which you will see approaches to therapy. Um, so questions to gather information, um, that information and somehow form a diagnosis or a problem definition, if you will, and then we come up with solutions or we come up with various things that need to happen. In structural family therapy, we assess family structure, we assess the hierarchy, and then create directives to help people move in and out of different relationships, realign the hierarchy. So I'm just giving you an example as discover, diagnose, fix formula that is part of many therapies. Just to contrast that, and I could say an awful lot about this, but it would be therapy. It has nothing to do with gathering information. Usually, the more information I have in therapy, rarely do I want to talk to other professionals who want to give me information. Rarely do I want to see the intake form because therapeutic conversation and the construction that goes on between myself and my clients from the moment I say hello is part of the symphony, the art, the dance, whatever you want to call it. The I want to be part of that process with clients from the beginning. Perspectives that are going to be most likely pathological perspectives about what's wrong with this family and layers of dysfunction that I hope this doesn't sound arrogant. That's not my intention. Certainly, when I am playing nice in the larger system, I will engage with professionals or cases. Um, Therapist is that sometimes those larger system relationships have beyond the actual therapy that I'm going to do with them. My critique of interview that it's not immediately relevant to the in the moment work that I do with families. So genograms are very connected to this idea that we're going to discover what the problem is, we're going to figure out what the problem is, and then once we've assessed what that is, we are going to provide some kind of intervention. Very much fits with our cultural ideas that we are the fixers, we are the purveyors of expert knowledge, we are the ones who help people solve their problems. I want to contrast that with, again, a more collaborative approach to therapy that is less about me diagnosing, assessing, me collaborating in conversation with people. They transform themselves. Through changes don't come from me. I'm not the catalyst necessarily for change. I don't, as a therapist, own those changes, but I have an extremely important job. I'm not in charge or responsible for the fixing, very responsible for creating a therapeutic relationship where my clients feel really connected to me, where they feel like I'm standing in their shoes, where they feel like, yeah, this person gets me, like I haven't been gotten about my problem. Through that connection, through that deep level of client, they transform. A lot of you are probably hearing something like that for the first time, and you probably have a lot of doubts about that, and I totally understand that. Um, so I'm kind of speaking from a perspective of how it doesn't make sense for me to not share some of those insights with you. So as I started out, again, I think a genogram can be a very valuable tool, especially if you are charged for Bowen's ideas or intergenerational ideas, which many people starting out in the field are. Um, I think it's a great perspective, but very linear perspective to think about how the past is causing the future or how past problems or patterns can affect the present. And learn in some of the other family therapy courses that there are several other perspectives that are much more collaborative relationship with clients. So I'm assuming some of what I'm saying is going to be new and make little sense, and that's okay. Chewing on these ideas, like I. Okay, well, I'll see you in the next unit.